Welcome back to the next episode of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Generation X tournament here on the HomeBoiz channel. Today we have a matchup that I've personally been waiting for, which is Supreme King Jaden versus Standard Jaden Yuki. Going over the Supreme King deck, it's obviously an evil hero deck that runs a couple of base elemental heroes as well. Obviously had to run with the alternate art. Sad that Clayman did not get one. And all it focuses on is ruining your life with various different fusion monsters, which are alternate versions of Jaden's typical E-hero fusions. They really love to destroy cards on your field and do lots of damage to you in the process, whether it's by effect damage or just by forcing you to strike a stronger monster during your turn. What's especially dangerous is not only the poly but the super polymerization, which allows Jaden to use any monster that he goes up against in order to fuse for his generic heroes here, which are any one elemental hero plus a monster of the same attribute. And Absolute Zero is especially dangerous because it's the only one, for whatever reason, which can be fusion summoned with any hero, evil or elemental. As for the side deck, it's actually much more modern evil hero support that has been released in order to really nitro this deck's capabilities. Stratos for some search/destroyal stuff, Malicious Bane with the ability to nuke the field, a second super poly, second field spell, and Royal Decrees, since this deck doesn't really run trap cards anyways. So definitely a very deadly competitor who very easily ran through his opponents in the first round. Let's see his opponent. Going up against his evil counterpart, we have Jaden Yuki with a combination of a Neo-Spacian deck and an elemental hero deck. It has hit the maximum limit for a deck size, which is 60 cards with 29 monsters, 21 spells, and 10 traps. Very interesting looking deck on paper, but there are a lot of different hidden gems throughout. It doesn't necessarily have a goal like the Supreme King deck does outside of fusion summoning. Like, it doesn't aim to destroy or do damage particularly. It's just a lot of different fusions with a wide variety of effects for different scenarios. But much like the Supreme King, Jaden also has one copy of Super Polymerization. He doesn't have a second one in the side deck, so he is limited, but he does run, I believe, all 6 of the generic hero fusions, so he has that going for him. And the side deck really panders to more of the Neo-Spacian support, since the main deck is more so elemental hero. He has a couple of outs. Supreme King has a couple of outs. Let's see how they do. Let the duel begin. Before we officially get into this, go ahead and drop in the comments below who you thought was going to be winning this duel. So the Supreme King is going to be taking turn 1, activating Fusion Conscription, which by revealing a fusion monster in his deck, he can add one of its materials to his hand. So he's going to reveal the Inferno Wing in order to add elemental hero Avion, who he cannot play yet, and he's just going to end his turn with a single face down card. Jaden, meanwhile, is going to open up not just with the E-Hero Sparkman, but with 2 face-down cards and swing in for 16 before the Supreme King activates the Mystical Space Typhoon to pop one of his face-downs, hitting the negate attack. So there goes an entire turn's worth of protection. And before he ends his turn, Jaden's going to fuse into the Absolute Zero. So it looks like he was using the Sparkman in order just to test the waters, see if it was a potential mirror force or what the hell it might have been. And now Absolute Zero can safely come out. Absolute Zero here is the manga counterpart, so it just kind of gains attack points if there's water monsters on the field outside of itself, but it does still have the ability to destroy all your opponent's monsters if it leaves the field face up. So Supreme King is just going to set and end his turn. Jaden doesn't have any more monsters that he can play, not even a set card, but Avion obviously gets run over there. Supreme King is just going to play more defense with his E-heroes, and Jaden also is they're kind of in a little bit of stalemate, with one player obviously having a much more significant advantage over the other. With no monsters on the field, Supreme King can special summon the Infernal Prodigy and sacrifice it with only one tribute for the level 7 Malicious Edge, thanks to the fact that Jaden has any monsters on his field at all. And when Infernal Prodigy gets sacrificed this way, it will allow you to draw a card. Ironically, he goes into another one. So now we're going to see the Supreme King attempt to activate his field spell, Supreme King's Castle. Very deadly for many reasons. One, it allows you to fusion summon your evil hero monsters with any fusion spell that you want, even if it was something like Power Bond that has nothing to do with the archetype. But more importantly, it gives his Fiend monsters the ability to grow stronger mid-battle by throwing away Fiends from his deck or his fusion deck. However, Jaden's not going to let that slide because he's going to use Protection of the Elements. So he's going to banish his Absolute Zero for, I believe, 1 turn in order to negate this spell card. And since Absolute Zero left the field, he will be able to wipe out the Malicious Edge. A very, very vicious counter for what was going to be a nightmare for Jaden. But here we go, Absolute Zero is back on the field. He's going to normal summon the elemental hero Stratos and get a search off of it, so he gets any hero he wants, and he picks Captain Gold, who can sacrifice himself from the hand in order to get Jaden's own field spell, Skyscraper, the city where the heroes dwell. Not only that, he's going to go into his signature polymerization technique, fusing Stratos with Necroshade, a hero with a dark monster, for the elemental hero Escuridao, who's going to get 100 points stronger for every elemental hero in his grave, bringing him up to a total of 3,000 so far. So he's going to be dealing a huge 55 points of damage to the Supreme King. For his turn, he actually draws into the Dark Calling. He's going to special summon the Infernal Prodigy in order to provide himself just a little bit of defense before activating Dark Calling. If you're not familiar, it's essentially Miracle Fusion, but for the evil heroes, and it counts itself as using Dark Fusion, so he can summon any evil hero that he pleases, banishing the Burstinatrix and the Avion for Inferno Wing, but with the attack points that Jaden's fusions have, he has to bring it out in defense mode and cannot do anything else with it, setting one more monster face down before passing turn. Now, you're probably wondering, why didn't he use the terraforming? That's because for round 1, the Supreme King only runs 1 copy of the field spell. So, it is a dead card in his hand. Jaden's move, he sets a card, runs over Inferno Wing and Burstinatrix, since he knows for sure anybody can run over the Prodigy. Supreme King can only respond by setting another monster face down, and that whole, negation back there a few turns ago really screwed with the Supreme King, playing nothing but defense for the entirety of this duel. And now, with no monsters left to protect him, Jaden wins round 1. Round 2 between the Supreme King and Jaden, and the King opts to go first once again, so he decided to just set up the field that he wants to set up and ignore the ability to draw the 6th card. He's going to set 2 cards face down, and end his turn without a single monster, which does not bode well for him, as we saw that was how he opened up the last round of this match. Jaden's going to normal summon the Neo-Spacian Pathfinder, and this is really interesting because if he had thrown it away from his hand, he could have gotten the Neo-Space, which searching is a vital part of how this deck functions with 60 cards in it, but he's going to choose to summon it for the 1800 beat stick instead, and Supreme King has no responses to that, so he's going to take that directly. Now, drawing into a tribute monster, a level 7 mind you, he has no moves once again, passing turn back to Jaden. We're going to see the Neo-Spacian Air Hummingbird hit the field, and during Jaden's turns, he can gain 500 life points off of Hummingbird for every card in the Supreme King's hand, making his life points 10,000 so far, doing another 2,600 to the Supreme King, putting him below half-life. Now we're going to see terraforming come, so he's going to be able to search and play the Supreme King's Castle, which will allow him to use his polymerization spell in order to bring out evil heroes, even though it's not Dark Fusion. So he's going to fuse the Sinister Necrom with the Gigantes, which is a rock monster, for Dark Gaia. And while Dark Gaia has no points, its attack and defense becomes the combined total of the 2 monsters that you use to fusion summon it, making it 3,500. Also, by banishing Sinister Necrom, a poisoned Necroshade, he'll be able to special summon any evil hero from his hand or deck. So he's going to grab a Malicious Edge out of his deck, allowing him to keep the one that's in his hand. We're going to see the Dark Gaia go into battle against the Neo-Space Pathfinder here, and with the Supreme Castle, he's going to throw away an evil hero. He chose another Necrom, so that Dark Gaia will gain, I believe, 1,000 points for this battle. Then, the Malicious Edge, after all that damage, bringing him back to below 8,000, is going to be running over the Hummingbird for nearly 2k more, bringing Jaden down by half of what he just had not more than a minute ago. With no responses possible, he's just going to set a monster and pass his turn. Here, Necrom's going to use its ability once again in order to special summon Infernal Prodigy, which can be sacrificed as a single tribute for Malicious Edge, allowing the Supreme King to draw a card, and he said it way faster than I was able to see it. Mind you, Malicious Edge, being a corrupted Blade Edge, has the ability to do piercing damage, so Sparkman cannot protect Jaden's life points fully, and the Supreme King easily takes round 2. Each of the rounds of this match have been very one-sided, and let's see where destiny lies. Supreme King is going first yet again, revealing Inferno Wing for the Fusion Conscription, grabbing the Elemental Hero Burstinatrix. This time, though, he's going to special summon Infernal Prodigy and sacrifice it to set a monster face down, still allowing him to draw a card even though Jaden has absolutely no monsters on the field yet. So, for his turn, Jaden's going to be activating the Neos Fusion. This is really limiting in a way, because when you use this, you can't special summon anymore for the rest of the turn, or at least you can't fusion summon. So, it's going to get rid of the Neos and the Liquid Soldier from his deck in order to fusion summon the Elemental Hero Brave Neos with 2,700, because it gets extra points for every hero and Neo-Spacian in the graveyard. And if it manages to kill someone, Jaden will be able to add a spell or trap card that has Neos in the text. He's going to further summon the Neo-Spacian Dark Panther and use Hero Mask on the Brave Neos, so this turn its name will change to the Elemental Hero Neos Alias. I believe he's just feeding his graveyard at this point, setting up for the Miracle Fusion for the future. Brave Neos is going to be leading the charge, running over the Sinister Necrom, grabbing him. Looks like a second copy of Neo-Space for either next turn or sometime in the future. Dark Panther is going to slash away for 1,000 points of damage, and the Supreme King gets his second turn now. We're going to see another Infernal Prodigy get special summoned to the field with the Malicious Edge combo. So here we have 2,600 and a draw, and he has his own version of Captain Gold, Evil Hero Adusted Gold, which is going to sacrifice itself to grab the Supreme King's Castle. So we're going to see that activate once more, and that spells bad news for Jaden. By banishing the Necron from the graveyard, we're going to see another Adusted Gold hit the field with 2,100 attack points. But the downside is that it can't attack unless you have a fusion monster on your side of the field. So we're going to see him aim for that with the Dark Fusion, using Adusted Gold and Malicious Edge for the Evil Hero Malicious Bane with 3,000 points of damage. Malicious Bane can't be destroyed whatsoever, regardless of whether it's by battle or by card effect. And during his turn, he can blow up all the monsters on Jaden's field with equal or less attack points, and then gain 200 points permanently for every monster that he destroys that turn. But he can't attack without hero monsters. Obviously, it's not a problem for him. Jaden, though, is able to protect the Brave Neos from this destruction, preventing him to rise to 34 by removing from play Neos Fusion from his graveyard. We're going to see the Monster Reborn, though, summon back the Malicious Edge to the Supreme King's side of the field. It's going to attempt to swing into Brave Neos, which I thought is a really interesting play here. I think he was going to attempt to use the Supreme King's Castle to boost it, but Jaden has Honest Neos in his hand, which is going to give Brave Neos an extra 2,500 attack points, rising it to a considerable 5,500. But with the Supreme King Castle, he can reduce some of the damage that he's going to be taking here, and he puts a second Necrom into the graveyard once more, so he only takes 1,900 points of damage, but Brave Neos will still get to search Jaden a card. Being too strong to do anything else for this turn, Malicious Bane cannot attack. Supreme King passes it back over to Jaden. So for Jaden's turn, we're going to see him set a card before activating Miracle Fusion, banishing the Honest Neos and the Liquid Soldier for the Elemental Hero Absolute Zero. Now Supreme King is in a complete bind because whether he attacks or uses his own ability, he will be losing other monsters. But Jaden really can't get rid of the Malicious Bane, so it's very curious to see where he's going to go. Since the Liquid Soldier was used for a fusion, he's going to be able to draw some cards here, throwing away the Polymerization. And ironically, he goes into the Graceful Charity, giving him 3 more cards at the cost of 2 cards. And now we see it. He has drawn the way out, the Super Polymerization. By throwing away a card in his hand, he's going to fuse Absolute Zero with Malicious Bane, an Elemental Hero with the Dark Monster for the Elemental Hero Escuridao once again. Even though he has banished heroes, it still has a nice, solid 2800 attack. We're going to see Neo-Space hit the field just because, you know, Jaden needs a field spell too, but he has the Miracle Contact in hand. So this will allow him to send monsters from his hand, field, or graveyard back into the deck in order to contact fuse for the Elemental Hero Neo's Knight, who can attack twice. And if you're already familiar with this card, no you're not, because the anime effect says that it can in fact do damage for both of its attacks. With 2500 base attack, it gets a 500 point boost thanks to Neo-Space, bringing it up to 3000. So he has 3 fusions, staring down an empty field. Jaden Yuki has won the duel.